Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back to The Reads Day. All right, everybody, this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. I read the controversial Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. All right, I'm gonna be honest with you. I totally did not know what this book was about until I saw YouTube reviews on it. My husband showed up one day with this book as a surprise. Another book gift, which I love. And from what I had heard from it, I thought that this was in the viewpoint of someone who was in the games from another district in the 10th Hunger Games. So initially I was super excited about it. And then I accidentally ran into some reviews, which honestly it was kind of a good thing that the reviews popped up. Otherwise I would have been really confused in the beginning. Turns out this is a book about young President Snow and how he became the person that he is through his experiences being a mentor in the 10th Hunger Games. And I was kind of scared to read this because I saw a lot of reviews that were negative. They didn't like seeing a sexy young Snow that's supposed to be the antagonist in the next book. I'm not really sure why people had their reservations about that, but they did. So I decided to read it, trying to have an open mind and seeing if this book was really good. Without further ado, let's get started. Most of this book I read was on an airplane. So this is what I have for notes. You could already see there's so many in the beginning. Okay, we of course will be going through the 6 questions. What were your initial thoughts? What did you like or not like about it? If you could change one thing, what would it be? What did you think of the ending? And did you have any other thoughts? Let's get started with chapter 1. Initial thoughts, I was a little bit bummed out because I think that initially seeing those videos about the negative reviews of this book kind of distorted my attitude when first opening it up. My main thing is I felt like I was just rereading the Hunger Games. It was the same old thing. I'll explain why in the next question. I'll start with what I didn't like about it. I don't like that he's poor. Semi-spoiler, but I'll make sure to not add in anything else that is along those lines of why. I just want to know if Suzanne Collins can write any other character besides one that is in poverty. Literally the only difference between Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games books and Snow in this book is that Snow is trying to hide that he's poor, and that's it. I'm not sure if I had a specific favorite part, but I think something that I liked experiencing within the first chapter is the realization of how brand new the games were and how different they were back then. They were not developed in any way, shape, or form, and a lot of the things that we are familiar with the Hunger Games, such as careers, mentors from other districts that had won before, and there were just a lot of things that were in the details in the 74th and 75th Hunger Games that were not at all thought of or brought up in the 10th one because it was still a brand new concept and they were still trying to get people to watch it. And I never realized how much those little details would be affected in a prequel. One thing that I could change, stop making people poor. Like seriously, is that the only thing that is going to be really hard for a character? People are insanely rich and they still have really crazy problems. Honestly, I don't even think that Snow has to be wealthy, but I don't think that he needs to be cabbage soup poor. Maybe in some situation they are in a financial crisis, like if the money from a will runs out or there's some sort of legal thing going on with money in their accounts. Just something original rather than we're poor. The ending was extremely cliche. Once again, it had the same exact beginning and end to the very first Hunger Games book. And I found that kind of annoying. District 12, once again, was the spotlight, which supposedly in this world that they live in, District 12 never amounts to anything, so I don't understand why they had to once again make District 12 the main character. Like, choose District 8. I'm a District 8 and they are awesome. They're the ones who actually rebel first. So why don't you write about that? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little too heated for the very beginning. I promise it's not as awful as the reviews that I saw before. The first chapter was not impressive to me though. And I understand that this first chapter its purpose might be paying homage to the people that were so invested in the first Hunger Games, and it's kind of like a rerun that everyone's supposed to love, but like, think of something original. As far as my other thoughts, all right, this one is gonna get interesting. So you know how Snow is supposed to be like 18 in this, right? So here's the issue. I can't imagine Snow as anything else except for the old white bearded man that we see in the movies, that we talked about in all 3 of those books. So every time that I'm imagining this young Snow in high school talking to other people, I literally can't imagine him as a teenager. Like, I don't know what is wrong with my mind, where barriers are, but I can't get past the wall. So I'm just imagining this old man just hanging out with a bunch of high schoolers, but it's just a little disturbing. And now we are in the end of chapter 3. Okay, at this point, I think that the book does a pretty good job of getting a comeback, but it's at the very least just adequate. Snow meets the District 12 girl, and I think that she's kind of like the apocalypse version of a Star Girl. You know how everybody talks about how like there are these girls that are so amazing and magical, and they're supposed to change all of these things about a guy where he was super mediocre before, but now he can be amazing because of her. Yeah, it's kind of like that, except Hunger Games version. But you can't help but like her because she's great. I think what I liked about these chapters is you're kind of seeing the perspective of Snow not changing his mind about anything yet. He is still pretty naive to what the Capitol does. I think that because he has grown up with the Capitol so much, he's trying to avoid the things that they have done in the past. He's still trying to wrap his mind around if he is really Capitol. Which of course he will always say to people like, yeah, I'm Capitol born, like I'm a Snow. But does he feel like one? Snow's rebel mindset hasn't set in yet, which I really like. And he doesn't want to be the hero yet at this point. I'm not sure exactly what I would change rather than the description of maybe the girl's dress. I really couldn't see a clear picture. All Suzanne Collins really described is like rainbow ruffles, and I'm literally imagining her walking around in a tutu, which I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not right, but it might be. The ending was odd. Once again, there is that consistent theme that the Hunger Games is very new, and the Capitol literally has no idea what they're doing right now with them. As far as my other thoughts, I think that the District 12 girl's story is pretty interesting. She doesn't have any parents anymore. She doesn't really have a legal guardian that's an adult. She just lives with a bunch of these circus kids. But that is interesting to me because I'm like, then what drive do you have to live? Not to be crass, but one of the main reasons why Katniss wanted to live is because of her younger sister, where I feel like there really isn't a lot of motive for her to win the games. Moving on to a third of the way through the book. The third of the way through is when it gets interesting. A third of the way through, we land on chapter 12, the very first page. But starting with chapter 7, things get interesting. I won't give specifics away, but I will say in those few chapters in between chapter 7 to chapter 12, a lot of Hunger Games-like things happen without the tributes actually being in the games yet. And I was totally here for it. I loved that because the experience of the mentors was such a brand new concept, that there were obviously things that were going to be learned through that process, and how all of these things that they learned beforehand connect to how the games go in the other books later. And there is a reason why they are trained and prepared beforehand. In Hunger Games, that is, not in this current book. Tigress is literally my favorite person right now. I freaking love her. She's my favorite. And I feel like she's so much more interesting of a character than Snow is. I feel like I would have loved to see her perspective of this. I kind of wish that she was in Snow's situation because I really would have loved to see how she reacted to that. The ending was pretty good. I don't think that the ending was quite as phenomenal as the end of chapter 7, but a lot of things happen in between those pages that are like, incredible. Halfway through, okay, wow. A lot happened in between a third of the way through to halfway through. And I don't even know how that's possible. I liked most things about this portion of the book. Snow has seen a lot at this point, and even though he is not anti-Capitol yet, you can see the gears turning in his head of really how awful this place is. Favorite part? District 12 girl is a badass. Loved that reveal. She's dope, I will say that much. She's pretty great. Okay, there is one semi-spoiler that I will tell you because this is actually the part that I would change about this portion. There is at one point where one of Snow's friends actually gets into the arena. He's not put there by the Capitol, but part of me wishes that he had been. It would have added a little bit more flair. It would have been more interesting. Food for thought. It ended on an interesting note because this is the first time that Snow is really questioning the Capitol's motives. I mean, he knew that they were screwed up from the beginning, but this is genuinely the first time that he was mad about something that the Capitol did. This first climax is really interesting. I once again am going to separate it into two different sections of climax because I feel like the third part of this book, it's a completely different plot line. So I feel like I need to put that into effect. I need to explain that a little bit more so that I can get my feelings off my chest. So the first climax is where things get a little bit interesting. The games ended really fast, which was super surprising to me. The games literally didn't even take up all of part 2 in the book. It definitely was less fun to see the Hunger Games in the perspective of someone watching it rather than being someone that is actually in the Hunger Games. So I think that that was kind of a bummer for me. I feel like if I could change one thing, I would make the games a little bit more interesting. It takes place in like an arena, an outgrown, there's some plants there, outgrown arena. At least I think that's what it was. Whenever I look online, it says that it was a forest, but nowhere in the book does it say they hid behind a tree, they climbed a tree, they hid behind a bush, they saw other animals, nothing like that. There was a lot of amphitheater seats and poles, all of that sort of stuff that you would find in like a normal Roman-like arena. So I think I'd make it a little bit more interesting because the only interesting part that they really put in there is the snakes. And that's it. That's all they have are the snakes. I feel like the ending was inevitable. It was predictable. There were only 2 people left in the Hunger Games, and obviously there was an entire huge third section that was still going on in the story, so you kind of already knew who was gonna win. It wouldn't be drug out for like 100 plus pages otherwise, which I feel like was like kind of a bummer. I really feel like with the amount of different factions or districts of this new Panem world, I really just want to get more details about the other districts. It's not just the capital and District 12, like, I want more. All right, so we're at the end and I'm confused. I truly don't understand how Snow turned so bad so fast. Literally, he hated the birds, he hated the mockingjays, and he thought his girlfriend was out to kill him, and that was all it took? That's all it took for you to be like super pro-capital? No, I'm not convinced. I want more. I want more of an explanation of why you were so quick to change your mind, Snow. I'm really torn because one of the main characters just straight up like disappears, and I found it really lazy. Susie just didn't have the balls to kill them. Kill them, kill the people. You've killed plenty of people before in your books. My favorite part of the very end is getting to know the Dean. Throughout the story, the Dean is kind of seen as like, I think the secondary antagonist. There usually is always 2 antagonists in every single book, or at least a good book there should be. And I feel like we saw a better insight to the Dean, why he is the way that he is, and we kind of realized like, he's not really a bad guy. In fact, to the audience, he is like a good guy. I'm not sure if Snow would think the same thing, but I definitely had a newfound respect for the Dean at the very end, which I really liked how they made that character kind of come back in a better light. If I could change one thing, honestly, I'd change a lot of things. But it is not my book. Let's just say I would have given Snow more concrete reasons of why he became pro-capital, since he is literally the main crazy antagonist inside of the Hunger Games. And the ending was expected, I guess. That's the problem with prequels, is I feel like since you already know what happens in the later books, the climax is a lot less exciting. Overall, I think I would give this book, I'm in between a D+ and a C-. Reason I am making it more of a C- is because I think there are really good parts in here. I don't think that it's all garbage. I just think how it ended was kind of like garbage. I think that they could have focused a little bit more on other things rather than just so much capital stuff. A part of me really wishes that this book was about what I thought it was initially. I wish that there was somebody else in a different district, like District 5, District 7. I don't even know what they do. Do you guys know what they do? Do you even know anything about them? I wish that it was in the point of view of another tribute again, but not focusing on District 12 at all, like blow them up in the first like cornucopia, whatever there is. I mean, there wasn't really a cornucopia in here, but still. Make it seem realistic that District 12 is like down in the dumps and they're good for nothing. Because that's what is said throughout like both of these books, yet District 12 seems to like rocket each time. So I'm still debating. Okay, I think I'm gonna give it a C-. I'll be nice with my rating. C-. I'm not sure if I would recommend this book. If you feel like you need to have some sort of closure of wanting to know a little bit more about how the Hunger Games really became to be, then I'd say read it. I would say your attitude with reading it beforehand, you shouldn't be so set on it being bad, because once again, this is just my opinion. These are just the things that I am thinking of in my premature author brain of maybe how I would change the story up a little bit more. But I want you guys to read it, and I want you to tell me what you think about it. Thanks so much for joining me for The Reads Day. I will see you next time I finish reading the book.